up, guys? Welcome to BFR Tuesday. My name is Ed Cara. I am based out of Dallas, Texas, here in my clinic. And every Tuesday I get online. Scratch that. Not next Tuesday. It's actually, I take 1 week a year vacation, and that is coming up. We're leaving on Thursday. So next week I won't be on, just giving you the FYI. But normally, for the last 2.5 or so years, I've been getting on every Tuesday and answering questions regarding blood flow restriction training. So what I do is I take your calls. I take your questions. If you put them into the chat section in your upper right, ask me those questions. And depending on how much time we spend, I will answer those questions, and then also chat a little bit about what I want to discuss. So I'm going to give you a second. I notice my smart board back there is not where it should be. I'm going to go switch that and let you give you guys a few seconds to put those and type those questions in. So I'm going to say hello from Dallas, Texas. Hey, Doug. Yeah, so they are. So you can, there's a few different resources. Number one, BFR University is my website where I post all my BFR stuff. I'm going to go www.bfruniversity. Be good if I spelled it right. University.com. My YouTube channel is Ed Cara. Pretty simple. Where else do I post those things? Those are also in a podcast. Right now, my podcast, which is really just me, we transcribe these and then we put them on a podcast and on YouTube. So podcast is, I think it's under BFR University, and I think right now we have it on Spotify and Podbean. I'm waiting for Apple to approve it. So yeah, that's where they are. And then you also will get an email from me that says, hey, we missed you at the webinar. Here's a replay. So kind of lots of ways to consume. Okan, hello from Turkey. How you doing over there? Let me see. What else do we got? Any questions regarding blood flow restriction training that I can answer? All right, if not, one of my buddies called out a pretty cool article that was written the other day. So I'm gonna pull it up here and find it, and then I'll share it. Let's see. Okay, so question from Alkan in Turkey. Blood flow restriction training on resting blood pressure and heart rate, a meta-analysis of the available literature. Did you read this paper? I've read numerous papers. You'd have to let me know the author and year of publication. But what was the findings besides BFR elevates temporarily heart rate and blood pressure, but not as high as high intensity exercise for heart rate, and and a little bit higher with BFR over high intensity. That's usually what we find in those studies. Was there anything different on that? And then Doug asks, let's say you're using this as a primary tool for strength training. How many weeks can you use it before going to other training methods? For example, 4 weeks of BFR, then hit for X period. It's a good question. I think, Doug, to answer your question, if you can lift high intensity training loads, meaning 65 to 90% of your 1 rep max, I think that should be your primary means. Now, there's reasons why you wouldn't. COVID was one of them. We couldn't get to the gym. I don't have a ton of weights in my house. So I had to use whatever's back there for my resistance training, which isn't, that much, up to, I think, 25-pound loads. In those cases, you could continue to do BFR until, forever. What you want to do, though, is make sure that you're increasing your percentage of 1 rep max, because as you get stronger, if you don't continue to increase the load, you'll get diminishing effects, meaning that 20% of my 1 rep max today is not going to be 20% of my 1 rep max in a month. I should get stronger fairly quickly within 3 to 4 weeks of using BFR. So consistently reevaluate what your 1 rep max is, or what resistance you are using. If you don't want to do 1 rep max, which I understand, I don't really want to do 1 rep max a bunch of times, or an estimated 1 rep max, meaning doing 4 or 5 reps to estimate what my 1 rep max is, just take your training close to failure or to failure. And I say that if you're a non-injured, that's what I'm assuming as your primary tool for strength training, you're non-injured, you can do high intensity training, just take your reps all the way to failure. Now, it should be close to the 75 reps prescribed. It's going to be a light enough load where you're going to get a metabolic effect, but go all the way to failure. If you go all the way to failure, take a little bit more time in between each session for recovery. So if I just hit my arms or a pulling, like let's say a lat pull downs, a horizontal row, and a bicep curl, I'm not going to do that again for 3 days. I'm going to give my body rest for 72 hours before I hit that muscle group or those muscle groups again. So to answer your question, you can use BFR for infinitum as long as you keep increasing the load. For the pressures, once you get to the highest pressure, 50% in the upper extremity, 80% in the lower extremity, no need to change those. Those are set. So you're just going to keep increasing resistance as you get stronger and bigger. So hopefully that helps. All right, so here's a paper that was written by Mike Reinold. Mike Reinold's a very famous physical therapist. This paper this is a blog. He just came out with it, so I'm going to share it. And then I'll share my screen and kind of talk a little bit about what he talked about. So let me share my screen. And all right, so basically he's talking about the best blood flow restriction. He calls them bands, I call them cuffs, doesn't really matter. It's a really, really good read because it talks about how to choose your best BFR bands and cuffs. size and widths, durabilities, mechanisms of applying pressure, and then he goes through his recommended cuffs. This is an independent person. He doesn't work for SmartTools, doesn't work with me. I've never met him in person, unfortunately. Hopefully I will someday, because he is a leader in physical therapy and rehab and performance. So he's got some really great points. And ultimately he recommends the Smart Cuffs as his primary recommendation because of durability, because of the way that we go about what we do, and the cost. And it's, what he says here is features that are in really expensive devices that cost thousands of dollars. We've made them very affordable for both professional and for personal use, which is great. So I have to thank him for making those recommendations. We put a lot of work into these things. We constantly are updating them. That's why we are at Gen 3, trying to make them better, more efficient, easier to use. We can always do better, and we're working on that. But we will continue to evolve and develop. And so, great little article there on differences. Now, the one thing I will argue with, and not really argue, just make comments about, is that he notes that in a couple of these cuffs that you can find them occlusion pressure, but the truth is you cannot. So you're using something called arbitrary pressures, where you're guessing the pressures, something that I don't want to do with my patients or myself. I want to know what pressure I'm using, make sure that it's safe, yet also effective. So great share. Everybody should have received my latest BFR newsletter, which came out on the 1st. My next newsletter will come out on the 15th. So they come out on the 1st and the 15th. I don't think we've included this article, so this article just came out. So maybe we'll throw it in to the article the beginning of next month. Some really great studies have kind of come out that I'll be discussing in the next few weeks. But remember, next week I will be off. But if you do have questions, please just send me an email, and you can get me at Dr. LaCara at bfruniversity.com. And Okan asks, as far as I know, B-Strong cuffs cannot provide to access LOP. Is that true? That is true. You cannot. They use a segmented bladder, meaning that the bladder has inundations in it. It's one of the things that they actually pride themselves on. They don't want you to be able to find them occlusion pressure because they really set off selling to the consumer, and so they didn't want consumers being able to inflate to 100% arterial and 100% venous occlusion and injuring themselves. So this was purposeful on their part. In my opinion, it doesn't allow for true BFR because you're not able to trap metabolites. That means that metabolites are going to be able to escape through those cuffs. Oh, and wondering about my BFR book. Look at this. There it is. I have to go through a read. I just want to make sure that it's right before it gets released. But we are, I will be ready probably to start shipping these. I'm going to guess, we're in July. I'm going to guess in July. It's just a matter of having to get mass printing. But yeah, there she is. Pretty proud of her. It's taken a long time to get this done. So thanks for asking. I really appreciate that. But you can also pre-order it, which does help me because I can take some of those funds and print more, and I know how many to print. Of course, the more that I print at one setting, the cheaper it is, and so I can keep them more affordable. But the book is free. You can go to bfruniversity.com and pre-order yours. You can also pre-order my the digital copy, which I'll release a little sooner than the print copy, and you can also pre-order the audio book as well if you're more of an audio book listener, which I like to do. I am driving down about 12 hours on Thursday to Georgia to see some family and then down to Florida. So I'll be I'll get the earbuds in, and I'll be only one earbud while I'm driving, but I'll be listening because the kids would go crazy if they heard a bunch of nerdy science stuff going on while I'm listening. So thanks. Yeah, thanks for that. So make sure to pre-order. If you are watching this on YouTube, please, please, please hit subscribe. That helps me as well. Otherwise, I will see you guys in 2 weeks, and I'll have some new stuff to share and questions to answer. Hopefully nice tan skin and healthy and rejuvenated. Doug asks, have you ever worked with or communicated with Dr. Doug McGuff about BFR? I have not. I have not met him. If you have an introduction, I'd love to chat with him. That would be great. I have some podcasts that I'm going to be doing with some people in July about the book and stuff. So, maybe he's somebody that we can pull on here and we can chat about it. All right. Thanks so much. Bye for now. See you in 2 weeks. Hopefully everybody is enjoying their time and their summer. Bye for now.